Hey, what's up? It's Genesis, and I hope you're doing well. This is my newest Ableton Effect rack, the Seabed. This device is inspired by tape loops and tape echoes, primarily used in the ambient music scene. It can be used to make very pretty soundscapes like this, and this, and this. Just to name a few, but it can also get pretty dirty, like this. And this. In this video, I'll show you how to make tape loop inspired loops without tape. Although I'll be using Ableton, this technique can be used in pretty much any digital audio workstation. And as a quick disclaimer, there's no such thing as rules in creative activities, only guidelines. And if this doesn't work for you, then that's okay. This is just an idea, and ideas can be disagreed upon. Skip to the chapters on the screen or in the description below if you want to skip the blabber. First of all, what is a tape loop? A tape loop essentially means a recording or a sample rendered onto tape, the kind that you see in cassettes, which is then physically cut up and secured end to end, creating a literal tape loop. As a tape is now a physical loop, the audio printed onto it will be able to repeat indefinitely. New audio can also be overwritten on top of it.
So how does sound on sound work? A tape recorder usually has three heads: a erase head, a write head, and the read head. So if you put a tape loop here, it will travel in this direction. You write something here, the information will travel down here to the read head where it's read, then it will go all the way around here to the erase head where it's being erased. So you only hear the signal once. But if you disable the erase head, the signal will travel all the way, and it won't be erased. So we'll be able to write over it. So you can have many signals, which is called sound on sound.
But why go through the hassle of using tape loops? As far as I've observed, in the ambient and noise music scene, tape loops are used as a way to have infinitely looping sounds and textures that can also be performed by changing its speed, mixing volumes of multiple loops over time, and by recording new and overdubbing loops, and so on and so forth. Tape is also praised in general due to its sound signature. It's relatively lo-fi, and can sound even more so depending on the quality of the tape that you choose. The lower the quality, the more tape noise it has. It also has built-in distortion and compression when you record loud signals into it, and it can sound unstable pitch-wise depending on the accuracy of the motors used to feed the tape through the record and playback heads of a tape player. This can also in turn make it sound more lo-fi.
It's old tape, by the way, so it's dirty, crunchy.
And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you might have noticed that in the My Master Chain video, link in description or the top right, I have a whole section dedicated to a tape emulator which captures its personalities of tape compression, saturation, and pitch instability. And within the past year or so, I've slowly become more and more obsessed with tape loops, creating beautiful yet gritty soundscapes and textures, and I've been wondering if I could make my own similar sounds and samples to use both in the same and different contexts. This new hyperfixation of mine led to me experimenting to create this tutorial, as well as creating this free Ableton rack, which condenses the experience into a small, performable effect rack. So without further ado, let's make a tape loop from scratch. In order to make tape loops, at the very least, you need a delay capable of 100% feedback. For this, you can use filter delay, or echo. The regular delay almost works because it can only go up to 95% feedback, and turning on the infinite loop or freeze mode disables any incoming input. So because of that, we'll just stray away from it in this tutorial. I'll show you how to use filter delay first, then we can move on to echo. After getting our effect, we need a way to resample or record the loop output. As you can see, I have a resampling track, which I haven't set up yet. And to do this in Ableton, all I'm going to do is change the input from external in to resampling if I want to record everything. This includes, for example, if you have a drum loop in the background that you might want to capture alongside the loop that you're going to start recording with, then that's what resampling does. You can also choose the track or group of which this tape looper resides in. Right now for me it's in this unnamed group, and that way if I had a drum loop that I do not want to capture alongside with a tape loop, this makes sure that I only record just this group. If you want to record multiple sound sources into that one tape looper, I suggest either grouping your input tracks like what I've done here, and then adding your chosen tape looper onto that group. You can also do the same with a return track and place the looper there. However, I'm just going to be using the group because it's a lot easier for me. I will also suggest that you group the tape looper devices into a group, create a blank chain, and this will be our dry signal. This is the unaffected signal. This is so your sound sources can just pass straight through the loop and you have a separate channel as the looper. And then inside this looper channel, you get a utility, which you can then map with MIDI if you have a MIDI controller. I'm going to use the mod wheel input here. And we're just going to set it from absolute silence to 0. This way, we have an input control going into that looper. You can of course make it an on and off switch, but I prefer this sliding parameter, so then I can adjust the volume of the incoming signal into the looper and I have more of a performative control. So let's start with a simple loop. We're going to set the feedback on all of these to 100%. I'll put the volume to unity and put the dry all the way down. There's no need anymore because we have this dry signal here. And I'm going to use this Rhodes patch, which you can get for free in my Discord, link in description or top right. And this is what the Rhodes sounds like right now. Something simple. You know what, I'm going to spice it up a little bit actually. Let's add some chorus and a bit of tremolo at a slow rate. Cool. And then maybe some reverb and delay at the end to further make this prettier. And since we're on sync mode for the delay, I'll also turn down the project file speed, or BPM rather, to something slow. Let's say 54 BPM. Let's increase this washout rack. You can also get this on my Discord, again for free. You know where the links are. Put this delay down a little bit. Cool. And in order to make our first loop, all we have to do is open up this input volume once we have a signal that we know we want to plug into that looper. So I'm just going to play this chord here. There we go. So there's a very simple loop. And of course we can play on top of it if we have our input volume all the way down. And since the input volume is all the way down, it's not being introduced into the loop. But of course we can add some more textures. And because we have this performative and slidable input volume, we can introduce some swells into sounds that are otherwise not swelly. Well, let's try this out. That one's got delay on it. Okay, let's find one. Let's do this one right here. There we go. And then one more for this high C. Very nice. We can of course adjust the loop length with this delay time selector. Let's try 16. So now this is double the length and we can add longer loops. Oh, that's nice. It even recorded the panning. Let's add some bass. Okay, let's try that. Nice. Ooh. Beautiful. Nice. Okay. Let's remove, or I guess get rid of this loop by just simply turning it off and on. And this time I want to use echo just so I can show you how this is more accurate to a tape loop. Let's move this to off length, at notes mode, 100% feedback, filter off. And with this input volume slider here, we can introduce some distortion, which is pretty cool. Put this driver all the way up as well. Let's try doing some stuff with distortion. I'll turn this output down and gain this input by 10 decibels. And let's try doing another loop. Bit of clipping there. Let's do more clipping. Make this louder. Yeah, you can hear the distortion a little bit. And as the loop goes on, it becomes more and more distorted until it reaches this plateau point. Alright, let's not wait any longer. We'll add some more textures to it. Nice. One cool thing with echo is with tape loops, it's very common to record something at regular speed and then play it at half the speed, which tunes the thing down by an octave. with the added distortion that it has and tape compression, you can get some really, really nice and very warm and luscious atmospheres. Here we go. Oh yeah. Right, let's add some more sounds. I'm gonna use this synth, also available in my Discord for free. You know where the links are by now. Let's add a chord. Change this. And let's add that in. It's in there now. I'm going to quickly get my guitar and I'm going to add some things to this loop. Let's change the input as well. I'll quickly be right back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some layers with some panning built into it. I'm going to go back 20 and I'm going to do some volume swells with my volume knob here on my guitar. So I'm just going to quickly arm this, just so you know this is already open. There we go, we got some guitar there. Let's add some on the other side now. That is insane. Alright, let's boost this volume back up. Oh yeah. Alright, so now that we have our loop, let's go ahead and record that. So I'm just going to arm the resampling here. And since right now I'm using the sync mode on the delay, we can just let it run. And we don't have to worry about trying to find the BPM because it's already in sync with the project, which is pretty cool. I'm gonna let this run for a little while. And then just end around about here. Boom. And then we'll just clear that delay. Then we can find a loop point. I'll try and find one with a pretty decent transient. Like around here. I'm going to start the loop here. And then just line that up at the start. And we have a perfectly trimmed loop. Just like that. And I'll loop it just to prove it. And just like that we have an amazing texture. I'm going to rename this real quick, or I guess I'll save this, and I will have this one sample for free in my Discord. Alright, and that's pretty much how you make tape loops without tape. However, I would like to show you a rack that I've made specifically for this that I mentioned earlier in this video. called Seabed. This is more aimed as a performative style tape looper. I'll just quickly go through what this thing does. First of all, I'm going to assign my MIDI input to this pre-buffer input knob here. And this knob is pretty much the same thing as what I showed you earlier. Now there's an input volume, so you can perform with that. We then have the buffer settings, so we can choose it to sync to the project file or be in millisecond mode. And then we've got the length here and the feedback. As mentioned before, 100% feedback turns it into a looper, but anything below that just turns it into a regular delay. And then after that, we have the printable buffer effects here, filter on off, low cut, high cut, and reverb. And these effects, as I said, are printable, which means that any movement of these parameters will be captured into that loop, which is pretty cool. We then have an input grain delay effect here. We can use it as shimmer, as hinted in this name here, like octave up, or octave down, 2 octaves down, 3 octaves down, for some nice textures. Frequency of the grains, spray from the frequency, and then feedback of the grain delay. We've then got post, reverb, effects, pre-buffer distortion, just like with echo, and post-buffer distortion. So I'm just going to quickly do a performance with this Seabed, and then I have one last tip to show you before the end of this video. Alright, so there's our loop. Let's record that. Nice, and then let's click on panic to clear the audio. There we go. And then just like that, we have a cool loop. Yet again. Nice. This one will also be available in my Discord. Again, you know what the links are. And you might have noticed I have this drums track here, which I haven't used yet. And that's because I want to show one last thing that you can do with tape loops without tape, or I guess with this kind of method in your DAW. One of my favorite producers of all time is called tascam. Tascam is absolutely amazing, in my opinion, because of his drum grooves, his sampling, and just like his absolute insane feel for rhythm. Check out his Boiler Room, for example, which is where I got this inspiration from. What he does in that Boiler Room is that he has a loop that goes on, and with this looper, he essentially creates a very wonky drum groove, which he can then add on top of and evolve his performance around. So I'm just going to quickly get some drums. I will use some of my own drums, of course, why not? I'll be using my drum bombs here. Let's choose this kick. And then this hi-hat. And then this snare here. I'm going to go to the init patch, and I'm going to keep it at millisecond mode this time. I'm going to choose my length. Let's just say around here. And I'm going to find out what the tempo is by just hitting the hi-hat. So now we have the sense of a metronome here. And all I'm going to do is pretty much write a groove, or finger drum a groove to this tempo. So now we have this loop. And because we're using a tape loop kind of emulation, we can change the buffer length here. Oh! And we get some slower tempos or faster ones. I'm gonna stick with this gritty tempo and then distort it. Woo! That's crazy. And we can add on top of that, of course. Woo! That's so sick. And then we can play with that. Dun, 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 dun. You get the idea. And of course we could just resample this. But since I'm using millisecond mode, I'm gonna have to try and time stretch this correctly. Say about here. And there we go. Just gonna change this to lead. And there's the loop. Nice. There's more to this though. As I said before, he has a whole boiler room dedicated to having a loop, which he can then evolve around on. So I'll show you that right now. Let's do the drum loop again. This time I'm going to choose a faster tempo so we can get grittier drums. Wow, the distortion is too crazy. And then we'll slow this down. Nice. And I'll just slowly build up a loop. Woo! And then what he does is that he messes with the feedback to create some space. So now I've just taken out the kick, and then we can add a new kick on top of that. Let's try finding a different kick. Try this one. Woo! And then more. Let's reharden this real quick. Let's take out the low end. And then we can add some more kicks again. This nothing's too crazy. And then with this new space that we built in, we can then change the chord progression a little bit. Shit, not that. Again and again and again, and pretty much his boiler room set is just using the loop this way, and it's so cool. So as I've said many times in this video, all the things that I've used in this video will be linked in the description below for free in my Discord. However, for my Patreon members, I've made something special for you as well. I've made a collection of loops here, and these are pretty much atmospheres or pads or whatever in every single major and minor key here. We've got F minor, C, in no particular order of course. And these don't have BPM labels on them, because this didn't have any strict grid in mind. And just because it says, let's say, B major or D minor, doesn't mean that you can transpose these to fit your project. These can also be chopped like regular samples, or just used as atmosphere behind some of your structure and all that, which is pretty cool. So there's about 24 of these, and I've also made some bonus drum loops from that same method that I just showed earlier. Yeah. These are all very wonky, and I love them for that. Oof. This one. Ooh, that kick drum. Oi. But yeah, all of this will be available to my patrons. And speaking of Patreon members, thank you to all my free Patreon members on the screen for showing your support. Much love to my tier 1 patrons on the screen as well for supporting the channel directly. And I'd also like to shout out Ectodrip, Delta Rose, Lizard, and iWrite for being my highest tier patrons. You're absolute legends. That's gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and sub to buff my algorithm RNG, leave a comment if you have something to say, maybe share it to someone you think would find this useful. You can further support me by checking out all the links in the description below. This includes my Discord, Patreon, merch, and other social medias. Once again, thanks a lot for watching, and stay creative. See you in a bit. I swear I need to change my outro, that's way too long now.